Hi, this is Helen Sanderson, and I'm just going through a vision that we developed with staff from a hospital about what one-page profiles could look like if they were introduced as part of the way everybody works. So this is how it begin. It will begin with referral, and right at the beginning of a patient's journey of when they start with the hospital, they would begin a one-page profile. So in order to do that, we need to look at the assessment paperwork and make sure that we're not asking people to repeat any information that's already been shared about them. So we'd look at the assessment paperwork to see if there's any information that could contribute to a one-page profile. We talk about the expected length of stay. We might do something around a confidence scale, and people would get a booklet, a patient information booklet that explained what a one-page profile is, why we're using them, why patients have them, and why staff have them as well. So right at the beginning, in everyday words, we would start a one-page profile, look at initial information about the person, and make sure they understand what it is and what's expected and how it's going to be used. Because a one-page profile is simply 3 questions. It's what do people appreciate about me, what's important to me, and what's the best way to support me. And you can see there from the image that our colleague John Ralphs has done, it just looks at those headings. So one thing that we're figuring out is at the moment when we develop a one-page profile on a ward, we have that as a handwritten one-page profile that either goes at the end of the bed or behind the person's headboard, and as people work with the individual and as we get to know them more, we then add to their one-page profile as well. Then when we think about when people arrive on the ward, so what happens at this particular hospital is that the referral comes from another hospital because this is a nurse-led therapy unit. And we get to know the patient a little bit before they arrive and start their one-page profile before they arrive. So what would be wonderful is when the person arrives, the person who's at reception introduces themselves saying, hello, my name is, and they would have already seen the one-page profile of the individual and could just say something like, it's lovely to see you, Carolyn. I know that you've got 3 daughters. Will any of them be visiting you tonight? Now, obviously, when we do a one-page profile, we make sure that the person is happy with the information being shared and it doesn't contain any clinical information that people might not be appropriate to share. As a new person arrives on the ward, they would see the staff one-page profiles, or rather the mini profiles on the wall, and they contain information about a photograph of the staff member, their role in the person's care, 3 things that people appreciate about them, and 3 things that matter to them. So right from the beginning, when somebody arrives on the ward, they can learn a bit more about what matters to staff and see staff as people as well. They'd also get a booklet about their stay, which again includes some information about one-page profiles and what people can expect. So then when people arrive and are welcomed to their bed, people will know that the patient's arriving already. I've already mentioned that they've read the one-page profile beforehand and they'd know what was important to the person too. And then we can start developing the one-page profile further through the initial assessment and the booking in information. One of the things that we'd really do differently is assume people's capacity, make sure we're keeping the patient at the centre of decision making. We see how far we could go towards patient-centred visiting times. So rather having fixed visiting times, seeing if we can negotiate those with the patient in a way that both works for them and works around their health as well. We'd have a mini book where we'd be able to introduce the team to the person. Say, for example, if the person was going to be seeing an OT and a physio and had 2 or 3 nurses working with them, we'd have a mini book which would introduce the mini one-page profiles of your team. And if we're working in a hospital where there's volunteers as well, we could match people to volunteers too. The other thing that we'd be doing is making sure that we knew what a good day looked like for the person every day. So the first person who supports the person in the morning, whether that's night staff or the new staff coming on in the morning, would just simply ask, what would a good day look like for you today? That would then be written on the whiteboard behind the person next to their one-page profile. Now this might be something as simple as a hot bath with bubbles in it, or it might be having an opportunity to have a call to with my daughter. But whatever it is, it's recorded, and every single member of staff supporting the person that stays shares responsibility for seeing if we can make that thing happen. And the night staff, whoever it is who supports the person at the end of the day, checks whether they've been able to achieve that or not. So either at the end of the bed or behind the bed, there's the person's one-page profile, and we also know what a good day looks like as well. Then in this hospital, we're thinking about departure as soon as people arrive. As I said, each day and each night we're asking what would a good day look like and asking what was a good day. And in the middle of the stay, we'll be asking both what's working and what's not working, and how are we doing in supporting you according to your one-page profile, and what we'd like to see here in the future. So because at this particular hospital we know that people tend to stay between 8 and 12 days, in the middle of the stay, about 4 days in, we would be saying, can you tell us 2 things that are working, 2 things that are not working, and 2 things that you'd like us to be paying attention to for the future. Now for the working thing, if people make a compliment about a particular staff member, the person will make sure that that compliment is passed on. So the person who's responsible for quality will make sure that gets passed on. Whatever we learn about what isn't working, that would then be immediately problem solved if we possibly can. We'd do something about it. But all of this information goes towards working together for change that would happen on a 6-monthly basis, where we'd aggregate together all the information about what's working, what's not working, and what people would like to happen in the future, with any patient who wants to be part of it to use that to inform how the organisation needs to develop. Then when we start to think about discharge, and again we start to think about this right from the beginning, the discharge planning happens with the patient, and we'd have a checklist to make sure we're covering all the things that we need to be taken into account. So this might include what support is happening at home, equipment, people's confidence in going home, how actually people get home as well. And we'd agree with the patient what needs to happen. So nothing particularly different there, except that what we'd also be doing is making sure that we put a call into the patient between 1 to 3 weeks, depending on the person and their situation, and check that they're okay, and that, if there's anything that we could be paying attention to for them. We'd also be making sure that their one-page profile goes out of the hospital with them, a copy goes home with them, and one goes to the GP and anybody involved in the person's care. That might be part of the community team as well, and that we check how the person is doing after departure. So these are the things that we're trying to put into place to make sure that we know what matters to the person right at the beginning, ideally before they even join, that we're capturing that on a one-page profile, that we have staff one-page profiles available as you come on the ward, so you get to meet people as well. You know who's in your team, and you see their mini one-page profiles too. We ask you every day, what would it take to make a good day for you, and we really pay attention to that. Your one-page profile is continually updated throughout your stay. And we ask you what's working and not working, and what you'd like to see in the future, and we act on that at the beginning of the stay, and your update one-page profile goes out with you too. So we're trying to make this happen, and we're committed to making this happen in a particular hospital in Preston, and starting to explore it in another hospital in Doncaster, and we'll keep you posted with how we're doing. Thank you.